Hey everybody, this is Claire, and this is Small Joyful Things. As always, I go to thrift stores, or I go to estate sales, or sometimes I buy things from Craigslist, and I'm always looking for things that I find interesting, or that I think you would find interesting. And then I take them home, try and find out as much as I can about them, and then tell you guys about them. So here's what I've got today. I'll just put that over there. I have this most amazing bowl. It is in this beautiful sapphire blue glass, and it is just incredible. If you just look at that design, the wave pattern, it is just something else. I bought this in a thrift store for $5. This is kind of a little bit more than I would normally pay for glass that I don't know off the top of my head, but this was just so cool and so unusual, and decided that, look, you know, I really have to have this. This is just like, it's too incredible not to buy. So anyway, let's measure it up first. It is about 6 inches across, and I'm just going to be careful here. It's about 4.5 inches high. So, okay, so why did I get this? Well, first of all, I fell in love with it when I saw it, because I just looked at it and thought, that's incredible. It's not quite Art Deco. When I actually picked it up, I thought, this kind of speaks to me as being later than Art Deco. It kind of feels more atomic. I think it's more of a kind of a rocket ship kind of space age kind of a thing going on. It turns out I actually wasn't far off the mark, which is great. But I kind of thought, not quite Art Deco, definitely not Art Nouveau. I don't think it's early 20th century. I think it's later than that. Does not change the fact that it's an amazing piece. I did check, is there any chips or cracks? There is not. Around with the hand. The only thing wrong with it is that there is a very tiny chip taken off there. And that I kind of thought, normally I wouldn't actually buy something that's chipped, but in this case I was like, no, I don't really care. I think this is special enough and interesting enough and nice enough that the chip at the bottom shouldn't matter. Now the interesting thing though is that there's, you see that there's a bubble. And you see there's this weird little line, swirly kind of finish line of some kind. That is not a crack as far as I can tell. It doesn't go all the way to the glass. It's like a manufacturing defect of some kind. I don't know if you can see that there. It's weird, I'll have to tell you, but it's not actually cracked. It's not like gone all the way through the piece. That's literally just something on the surface there. I don't really get it. It's odd, I'll give you that much. But anyway, so what exactly have I got? What I have here is a piece of Sowerby glass. Sowerby? I think hopefully I'm pronouncing that right. This is from Sowerby Glass in England. I do have some information about them. You see here, they've been around since the early 19th century. Oh, come on. My YouTube recommendations. I still, by the way, don't know how to stop notifications coming in when I'm actually, you know, when I'm using the iPad. But I still don't really know how to, you know, edit videos very well. So I still have to use my iPad. Anyway, Sowerby Glass, right? They were in Gateshead in the northeast of England. They've been around since the early 19th century. We don't really know a whole lot about them apparently, but they made a very high quality hand-blown glass during the 19th century anyway. The pressed glass is what everybody knows about now, and they made lots of different designs over the 100 years from the 1870s to 1972. That at least will narrow this down a little bit. Obviously, it narrows it down to that particular range. This is definitely pressed glass. It has a set of mold lines. You can't really see them there. I think you can see them kind of just there on the legs. I think there are only 3. So this came out of a 3-piece leaf mold. I don't actually know a whole lot about molds in general, but if you do look at the sha.org website, they do have a lot of information related to glass and molds, but it's more specific to glass bottles. And what they do say there is that if you see bottles that have 3 seams, that's generally considered to be a better quality, or there's usually a decorative piece. So interesting. I don't know if it applies to this, but make of that what you will. Anyway, for Sowerby's themselves, their thing was definitely making high quality glass. But the nice thing is that, this is one of their designers here, they said the less machinery has to do with art, the better. Although they said that, there is no doubt the Sowerby's were bringing art to the millions by making beautiful pieces affordable. They basically took really lovely designs, made pressed glass, and got them into the hands of lots and lots of people. I gotta appreciate that. Making art affordable is a great objective. Anyway, so John G. Sowerby, successful painter and illustrator for children's books. He was an artist, and he was closely involved with artists of the arts and crafts movement and the aesthetic movement, which was like basically the arts and crafts and aesthetic in Britain anywhere was kind of the prototype of Art Nouveau, and that was kind of the early 20th century when they kind of just, you know, those art movements were going on. And there was a lot of different stuff here about like essentially the design and stuff that they went into the molds and everything. This is not so much what I'm interested in. I'm still trying to figure out like when might this be from, because it's obviously not marked. Can we find anything more about it? Unfortunately for this, like the company here, they didn't really survive after the Second World War. They were a casualty of the war. By the 1930s, they had new designs, new mold makers, and their success did not survive the war. After the war, they had too many employees and not enough work. By 1956, they were going bankrupt, and then essentially gone in the 1970s. That is a shame. Anyway, so when I was doing research and trying to find exactly what this is, I struck out initially. I did a number of searches, like a tri-footed bowl, Art Deco, like pressed glass, a few other things. And I was kind of guessing at the time periods as well, trying everything from like early 20th century to mid 20th century, or anything like Depression era, that kind of thing. And I basically came up with nothing. I ended up going to the glass collecting subreddit and put the picture up there and said, look, has anyone got any ideas? A lot of people there would have access to old catalogs, or would have like quite a bit of knowledge about like how to identify odd pieces, or at least be able to kind of narrow down the style or maybe the area they might come from. Like, is it European? Is it North American? In this case, someone basically came up with Sowerby, and I did some reading around, and I got this 20th century glass, 1930s Sowerby, the 2602 glass rose bowl. And that is lovely. But we also got a price, isn't that nice? So this is great. We've got an amber glass rose bowl. Can we get any more information about that, or, you know, the time periods and everything? And turns out that we can. This is glassmessages.com, and here's someone who's actually looking for information, and this is what it would have been originally. So originally you have this nice little bowl with the flower frog that sits in the top of it. You obviously put the flowers in there, rose presumably, and it sits on this lovely little plinth. And this is great. This gives us a little bit of information. It says pattern 2602, which is what this is, probably dates from around 1938, which is when the print block from the catalogue illustration would have been prepared. And the continuous use of this print block in later patterns is, of course, no guarantee that the special plinth is still being made. But okay, that's less interesting for me, because obviously I don't have the plinth. I'm trying to establish what exactly the bowl is. And this is great. This gives us some information. This guy has Sowerby pattern book number 37, circa May 1954, and shows the 2602 rose bowl and block. Unfortunately, I cannot find a picture of this pattern book. I have to kind of take it on faith. This guy is right, and 20th century glass is right. Because again, they also say the 1930s amber glass rose bowl. I did some other reading around. They definitely did this in different colours. And as far as I know, they made it in blue. But so the problem here is that I cannot find any in blue. I mean, I've looked. It's in amber. There's a few different things. It's definitely in the green. Like, that's kind of a more, yeah, that's more amber again. But other than that, I got nothing. Like, I can find other examples of Sowerby glass in this type of glass. They definitely were making other pieces in this color around the same time period. I cannot find another blue one. It's crazy. It's ideally I would like to have the complete set, which is the plinth, the bowl, and then the frog, the flower frog to go on top of it. Obviously I don't have that. But yeah, like we're basically just kind of taking on a faith that this is an actual Sowerby bowl. I mean, based on the style being so distinctive, you know, the fact that it's got some wear on it, I'm assuming that yes, it's the real deal. It just appears to be kind of rare. I can't find a single other picture of one in this color. Crazy. But anyway, it's really interesting that we've got this information that gives us kind of a nice it kind of gives us a ballpark for when exactly this is from. And it says probably the 1930s, but still in production up to the 1950s. because obviously it still showed up in the 1954 catalogue. And I think that's where I was getting this kind of space age or atomic kind of feel for it, is that, yeah, it's not, I've seen it listed everywhere as being Art Deco, but it has kind of a rocket ship kind of a feel going on. It has kind of a little bit of futuristic kind of feel going on. And maybe this just happened to be one of those designs that kind of fit into the 1950s aesthetic and getting into the age of like this, you know, the space race, the moon race and all that kind of stuff. And that appealed to people. How it actually got from England all the way to Vancouver, BC, I have no idea. Now, having said all of that, what's it actually worth? Now, I did look on eBay. Sowerby Glass is still quite collectible. It's still pretty. You know, people are definitely looking at and buying it. Whether they're actually looking for the rose bowl specifically, I don't really know. There isn't enough of it here to kind of get a judgment of the price. You can see that there are a lot of sold listings, which is great. I mean, people are definitely buying it for what it's worth. There's 41 sales effectively of Sowerby Glass in the last 90 days. This is great for me. So considering that I bought it for $5, I will probably be putting it up on either Etsy or eBay, and I will sell it for, I will say maybe $30 plus the shipping. And I think that's probably a really good price for it. I think someone is really going to like it. I mean, it is very kind of solid, kind of, you know, it's kind of solid Depression era kind of glass. It tends, like, the stuff tends to be fairly nice and tough. It has a fair bit of weight to it as well. This is not light glass. I've been to thrift stores and I've picked up a few pieces and then I immediately ended up putting them back down because they feel so flimsy, even though they're actually made of glass. So there we have it. I'm really glad that I found this. I'm actually still in two minds about whether I'm going to actually sell it, just because it is just so cool. I cannot get over how cool it is. I love that design. It's really something else. There we go. Put it there. So there you have it. This is my small joyful thing for the day. I hope you guys like it as well. Thanks very much for watching. Bye-bye.